That does look pretty hot. But that is big enough to like cover my waist.
I didn't get the memo about wearing shorts, I'm sorry.
Couch man.
This is the fake podcast couch.
I'll put the fake podcast in. I will design it, I swear. Design it and keep it. That'll be like the clickbait.
When Hugh comes out of his room naked, you guys all know what's going on.
Okay, let's start. So, after that, this big podcast.
So, Jan, what is your favorite memory of IESE?
So it's not happened yet. It's about 5 minutes. You guys are about to see Aaron and Pavel's eyes go, wow.
And like we'll be crying, we're like, thanks for sharing your favorite memory.
And all those rumours of huge will change.
What does David know?
Okay, well, episode 8 has. Okay, this is by the way started. That's how we do it.
8
like,
or 7?
8.
8, okay.
This is supposed to be episode 7, but then someone was too tired after a marathon and then a flight and then couldn't make it. That was you, by the way.
Yeah, I ran a marathon, I don't know if I mentioned.
Yeah, which is why we cancelled.
I was alright. 3:34.
Yeah, fine. Average.
All right, so let's do this. Episode number 8 for our long-time listeners, like 3 people who have been watching our show. Like
Shout out to those 3 people. You're doing God's work.
two of us. That's 2 of us.
You watched the shit?
And I'm hoping the third person is your girlfriend.
What about your parents?
But they don't know I'm fucking doing a podcast. Actually, I should tell my mom that I'm doing a podcast.
If you
Then-
tell your mom, I'll tell your mom as well.
Alright, so the way we do this, we have an icebreaker. We've broken a lot of ice already. I mean, I don't know. There's no ice left to break. So, in the spirit of what we decided, what is your favorite memory of in Barcelona?
Yeah, I don't think, as I was saying earlier, I don't really have a core positive memory. My only core memory is sat in front of you wrapped up. But I think in terms of like groups of memory, I'd say there's probably 2. One of them is this flat. I'd like probably one of the best decisions I made was moving into not this flat in general because Max's room is alive, partly because of the way he lives and partly because of mold. But
Shout out to Max, who's sitting in his molded room right now.
no,
You
but
prefer to be there rather than here.
yeah, I don't know how that sells what we're talking about really. No, but the 3 of them are amazing. Like the flat dynamics are just really, really good. You've got the studious side of the flat and then the fun side of the flat, and every now and then we mix with each other. And the other one was Comco. I don't know how it was for you guys, but like the communications course for us, I had some amazing speeches in my team that didn't make it out that were a big reason why we grew quite close. People sharing stuff that was really intimate. And then in the section, like I remember Gabby's speech was amazing. Macca's speech, I don't know if you remember, was brilliant. And then moving on to the final speeches, I mean, they were all great. James really touched me. You all saw Javi's, which we'd seen for the second time, which was phenomenal. So Comco was a really, really good way. I mean, we give IESE flack every now and then for some stuff that they do, but Comco was a really, really good way to start, at least in my opinion. I don't know how it was in your...
No, I agree, and I think we discussed this in the past. Like, as a course, it's the perfect way to start. If you're trying to build a community which is so team built, like everything we do at IESE is like team centric, and one way to get team to be really close to each other is to just have a course like this. What surprised me though was how quickly people were comfortable to like share the deepest, darkest secrets. Like this is like week 2, and these are random people you met for the first time, and then here you are just like sharing everything, like the deepest, darkest secrets of your life. probably things that people will share with their therapist. I don't know why that happened. Why would you? I mean, okay, in your case, I'm sure that there were moments where you shared something with your team, and you met them for the first time. What made it comfortable? Like, what was it about? Was it just that you were compelled to do it because the theme was okay, emotional conversation, so you had to say something emotional?
No, I think there was. I think the pathos speeches were the one that it came out, and at that point, some people took a leap of faith, and I've been, like, fortunate is the right word. My life hasn't seen the same level of tragedy that some people's have, and some people took that chance to, and I don't like to speak about stuff like that, which was super touching, and then we sort of grew from there, and it really opened up. I think I have quite a close team. I know not all teams are like that, and I think it started there across the board, because then there was a few, we all pitched in and started adding stuff to the conversation, but there was a few people who took that first step, and it's the same case in any relationship, isn't it? Someone at some point
Has to take the step.
takes that first step and opens it up. And
No, but are we doing this
shout out to Barcelona Team 6
and teammate? No, but do you think, like, is it weird that, hey, tell me your most emotional, traumatic experience of your life for an A grade? Did grades matter at that point? Like, the more touching your story, the higher you get rated? At that point, because it didn't feel like, at least in my team, that we were doing it for better grades. I think it was just, okay, there's two sides to it. One, I feel it's easier to share these stories with people you don't know, because there's no prejudice, there's no judgment, and also like a safe space was created, which is why probably people were a lot comfortable to share it with them. And grades didn't matter. But do you think like the element of grades was a part of it, or not at all?
I don't think so. I don't know how it was for you. I really struggled to write some of my speeches. Like, I was sat there and I was coming up with stuff to write, and then up until I then ended up writing about something that meant something to me, it was nonsense. So
The being kind, be kind.
Yeah,
that was a lovely speech, though.
that's very kind of you. I showed it to my parents, and one of their first reactions were, "What the fuck? Why do you think you're an authority on kindness? what makes you stand up and say that?"
Just go to in like the first 2 weeks, there are 350 people. Be fucking kind. Okay, so yeah, so you struggled to write your speeches. You said like
No, yeah, I don't think there was grades, an element of grades involved in any of that. I don't think. No. I don't have a more eloquent answer than I don't think there was grades involved with that. Was it different in your section? I've heard from all the sections that there was some.
There were some really powerful emotional speeches in the section. I think my team, like right now, we're super tight knit, but I think it took us a while to get like super comfortable with each other in that way. So there were like a couple speeches in my team that sort of hit, but there was also some ones which were a bit more like polished or distant or like not fully revealing themselves. But yeah, I mean, there were some amazing speeches in the section. Like, it's funny. I hope she won't mind me saying this. If she will, we can edit it out. But like for me, the best speech I heard was from a person who got a C in that class, and it was Katz, and she delivered like an absolutely amazing speech about what it means to be like a Chinese immigrant in the U.S. from like the culture.
yeah, I heard her speech was amazing. She got a C.
She got a C because she, I think, missed like too many sessions or something, which is very essay way of like grading people. But like that speech was just was fantastic, and there were a few. Yeah, James was great.
This is about like text your parents or something, right? Like, yeah, that was a nice one.
Antenne had a great one. But yeah, there were some like super personal ones as well. I think I enjoyed giving mine, like having like 70 pairs of Bibles train on you while mine wasn't very well. Actually, no, it was quite personal. Like I was basically talking about, I think it was what was it? Logos, ethos, pathos. Yeah. So mine was the ethos speech about what it means, like having grown up in different cultures, and why I think immigration is like great for both. Well, I was talking about like both the people receiving the immigrant and like the immigrant themselves. And yeah, that was a really nice experience. But I didn't get an A.
and I'm still bitter. But I think at that point it's like more that
Poor man's got 1B. All
no, I've got 6 Bs, but this is probably the one that
for the record.
but that's probably the one which I'm most annoyed about. It's up there anyway. I'm sure there's more Bs coming this term, I'll tell you. But yeah, no, I think it wasn't so much for the grades. I think we had the week of orientation, and then we rolled to the comms class, which I agree was a great class, and like so unlike everything else we've done in the MBA because it's so personal. And I think people were kind of felt like they were buying into the ethos, and they just wanted to do the best they can under these conditions. And so it felt like if everyone else around me is sharing, I should be sharing as well. So I think, yeah, my team was maybe a bit more closed off, and it took us a while to open up. But some of the speeches, I mean, people really just left it all out there, and it's pretty amazing. And then everyone's kind of, the great thing as well is like people kind of bare their soul, and then people just pretended like it didn't happen in a good way. Like it was like, hey, this was your moment, like you were there, we all heard it, and then afterwards it's like, hey, like you can go.
Yeah,
back
we're
to
not going to like make that the only thing that we know about.
Exactly, and also like some people who are generally quite quiet, not very extroverted, had to speak in front of 70 people, but then they went back to being like themselves because in the end of the day, like in this like fake environment that's created, you can do certain things. Like some of the shy, I've heard, I can't remember who it was, but like some great actors like start off really shy and were encouraged to do theater as a way to like express themselves, because you're kind of in a different state of mind, and it's the same with these speech classes because there's no parallel in like real life where you would just have to stand up in front of people and talk about like your grandma dying or like it's quite touching. It's also quite ESE in a way because it kind of starts off with this feeling of like, okay, there's all these stories from different people from all over the world, and that's like probably one of the most powerful things that we have here, right? And then we go straight to like case method and
Then
follow Comco with a
Oh.
class AVP.
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd be interested to know, like, why do you like, why, in your opinion, like people over here are just so nice, and the space just feels so warm and welcoming and a lot less hostile.
I do think you have to give admissions credit. I mean, I don't know much about what they do in the background. I've spoken to Louisa, who admitted me, a few times, and I think you can tell by, for example, our average GMAT score that they don't select on the same basis that other top business schools select.
Yeah,
Because otherwise we wouldn't have the average GMAT score that we have.
yeah.
And I love that. So I read a book called The Social Animal by David Brooks, and it follows these two fictional characters from birth to death throughout their life and explains their life using science. And one of the things that the male character talks about is when he moves to college, he wants to room with someone who has a low GPA but a high SAT score. Because what they're saying at the time is GPA, or what the reasoning is for this character is that the GPA shows like you can apply yourself, you work hard, whereas the SAT, it's a one-time thing. If you're smart, you can. A lot of people can work for it, but you can flash in the pan the SAT, and it's not the same, but it's like in that you can select for certain things using certain criteria, and I think IESE has chosen different criteria than other business schools, and I think the interview and the holistic thing is a lot more important here. And then I think it becomes, after a while, it becomes self-selecting, because then you get alumni to interview. A lot of people that work in admissions are alumni, so they sort of know what they went through, they know what they expect. And I think one of the things she said was one of the deciding factors is, would I like to have a coffee or a beer with this person? And if that's if everything else fits, like you obviously need a certain acumen, you need a certain CV, but a lot of the technical skills can show up on a CV, and then you find out about the person behind the CV. And then I do think that the class grows with the people in the class. Like you have some people.
I think there's more incentive to be nice in order to grow.
Yeah, but you have some people that sort of, again, take that leap, push forward. Like again, Aaron, or both of you really, with this podcast, or I have a lot more exposure to Aaron because we don't interact as much paddle, but like all the stuff that you do is so out there, so wholesome, getting people together, that people just follow in that vein because they see, okay, this is the way that this works here. And there are other people like Maka, Karol, Gemma, I could name hundreds, Gail with Bao, who go out to build a community, and that's their goal.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but I think admissions has to have some credit.
Okay, so we spoke about the comms class, and you did also mention one of your core memories is the people that you met in this flat. So, quick question for you: kill, marry, fuck in your flat.
It's fuck, marry, kill. Everyone knows that's the order.
The order doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
Okay, whatever. Fuck, marry, kill.
yeah.
Okay, fuck, marry, kill, and you can't kill Hugh. That's it. No, you can't. You can't go down that path. No,
I can't kill Hugh.
no he's
Says
like
who?
you can't. Of course.
No,
he's
but then
like,
you just limit his options to two.
okay,
people.
fine. Kill, marry,
Fuck,
marry.
marry, kill whoever you want. It's,
Fuck is an easy
I've
one.
known Max long enough to kill him.
you got everything you're gonna get out of that relationship.
The two of us have known each other long enough. I feel like
This is it.
what's another 6 years? Honestly, I mean, you just had Hugh's cooking.
He'd make it.
It's hard to throw that away.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to talk about. Actually, no. I'm going to turn this around. We objectify Alicia enough as a community.
So you can't fuck him.
Alicia's dying.
Alicia's dying. Wow.
So I guess
So fuck you.
I'm going to have to marry Hugh, and then I'm going to have to play into the expectation of half of this NBA that Max and I are fucking.
Okay. So you kill Alish. You went from killing
It's
Max.
It's moved quickly.
You started off by
See, you,
killing.
you didn't let him kill Hugh, and then he didn't want to kill Hugh to begin with. So you just restricted his options for
I
no reason.
assumed he's just gonna be like whatever, fuck it, kill Hugh, and then marry Max, and then fuck Alish. That's what I was predicting as his answers.
From the bucket of topics that we have, and we've had people speak about their family, about their career, and for example, Gaio spoke about his kind of love of triathlons and how that plays with his relationship with his family. So yeah, we just let our guests to talk about something that's personally meaningful to them, and it kind of fits into one of the major life. I don't even know what would be the right.
No,
noun.
so I think it's like the second segment is more like we're getting to know the person a bit deeper, and a way to know them, we kind of give them three different buckets to pick from, and you have picked the bucket of like family, friends, love and relationships. So what does family mean to you? Like, how important is family in your life, would you say?
I think I have quite a. I don't know if German family is fair. We're very close, but I've met people who are a lot closer to their family. Like, it's not a constant interaction. It's sort of a dependability, I think, in all directions, that you know that they're there. My parents have allowed me to do things that if I can do half of what my parents did for me, for my kids, at some point when I get them, I will have done a lot right in my life. And my sister and I, we're close, but again, it's not like, I think some siblings are best friends. We're 3 years apart. I left home when she was 16 or 15. So a lot of growing up happened when I was in a different country as well. So I think there are closer families out there, but also the people that know us would say that we're a very close family. And for example, my parents one of the core things that most of my friends know about my parents is that whenever we go out, if you need somewhere to stay, it ends up being my parents' house. And that's not because it's easily accessible. It's just that you know there's somewhere to stay, and we've had people come home that weren't planning to come home and like get into the house at some point when the kids are already home or something like that and have joined. And then the next morning my parents will wake up and just be like, what, 7 pairs of shoes in front of the house? Okay, well, I guess we're having breakfast with 9 of us then. And that's something that I really hope to emulate at some point.
You described your family and you described how important they have been in your life, and you may deny this, like he's known as the virtuous guy in our class.
which is a problem.
Probably in all of ESA, I guess.
It's just because they're comparing them to you.
Exactly,
Okay,
it's an
probably.
issue for our
It's-
class. not me.
So yeah, would you say then this has always been the kind of like this has always been the yarn like since you were 15? I mean, was there an asshole version of you at some point?
I mean, I've had my moments. I think we all have, but I did get a pretty rigorous upbringing in terms of. So there's a German saying, "Es gehören immer zwei zum Streiten," which means that for there to be an argument, there has to be two people involved. And every time anything happened, one of the first reactions I got from my parents when I was saying something was that sentence. And I think it does reorient the way you see the world. If every time something happens, someone's like, well, wait a minute, you're part of this as well. What have you done to make this happen? And that is part of, no, we'll leave that. There's a spoiler in there for later as to how I try and see the world. And I mean, yeah, I think I was a relatively easy teenager. Like I didn't act out. So I'd like to think I've become more comfortable with the person that I am over the years, but I think the core personality, and again, you'd really have to ask others at this point. I think when you live your own life, like it's hard to tell how much you've changed.
Yeah, true.
But I would like to think that I tried to live by the similar principles as I do now.
And that applies in all the domains, your family, friends, and relationships.
Yeah.
Like one of the questions I wanted to ask Jan was, so you brought up being polyamorous, right? Which I know you're not. But so Jan, are you
Aren't you?
old school? Are you like an old? How do you look at relationships? Like old school, or a bit more? I don't want to use the word modern because I don't think there's like a linear way. And unless you disagree with me, I don't think like relationships evolve over the years in a linear fashion.
Historically, they disagree with you. I think the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans were
They were
as
polyamorous,
as
yeah.
they came, so
polyamorous and patriarchal as fuck.
you'd almost say polyamorous is probably more ancient than the old school version of dating.
Yeah, it was Christianity that was like, no, one partner for life.
One of the many things that Christianity foisted on the world.
Like,
Should we go down that road?
no, that's not.
Actually, no, we can definitely delete that out.
No, so wait, are you old school? Are you old school? Like, how do you look at relationships? Like, maybe not. You don't have to talk about your relationship, but like your view in relationship. The old school way, one partner for life, something that I like. That idea is like it's a bit like I feel like it's romanticized.
Like lobsters. Like lobsters.
Lobsters.
Apparently they're made for life. That's why the movie... Have you seen the movie The Lobster?
No, lobsters made for life.
You've never seen The Lobster?
No, I think certain penguins do as well, and they propose by giving a rock to their.
Yeah, so that's like once they have the
Just like them, for real.
once they have the child, I thought that's when they become like, okay, now we got to protect this child, which is a more of like an evolutionary thing of like, okay, you need a stable relationship to maintain an offspring,
Which is weird, because penguins live in colonies, right? So
Also, to be fair, that's definitely a fact that I picked up at some point, and before, like when you used to have facts that no one could fact check. And you're like, yeah, these are definitely.
that was
true.
great. Smartphones really killed like the bar conversation. Like,
And now every time you have a fact, everyone's like, wait a minute,
Wait a minute.
that's just not true. What the fuck are you talking about?
good business idea. A bar which like advertised itself as having no Wi-Fi, no signal. You just put it like deep in a dungeon, and you're encouraged to have like the stupidest conversation possible where you can't fact check anything.
Absolute nonsense.
I like how the conversation of polyamorous started, then Max just walked out, ready to like
Pounds.
So yeah.
Oh, they're all polyamorous and they all come flying out.
So actually, we're in Jan's polycule right now.
Yeah, so polyamorous means living with 4 men.
So yeah, also like
Four other men.
No, 4 men. I'm one of them. I get to be one of the men.
alright, yeah. So yeah, what's your take on relationships? Are you more old school?
No, I've
Yeah,
I've s-
We hate relationships. relationships. We have each other.
I just imagine these guys just like sitting on the couch and like, fuck women.
We have each other, but
no.
secretly we all want Alicia.
Unfortunately, I killed Alicia earlier. We've
Yeah,
objectified
we
him
asked him.
enough.
We asked him kill my.
Oh yeah,
It's time
you
for-
guys want to do fuck, marry, kill for your 3 flatmates? We know his.
We all want to fuck
You're
Alicia,
dying because
that's
you're
not-
basically already like.
No, it's a hemophilia check.
You escape the grave every day.
Sad to be here.
No, I mean, I don't have this. Not the area of my life that I claim to have the most
Wisdom.
wisdom, experience, or knowledge, but
But
I
you're,
get-
but you're someone who usually has like a lot of like, I mean, you have opinions about things. Like when I say opinions, not in a bad way.
Unfortunately, as Tim Minchin says, everyone has opinions just like they have arseholes. You just don't need to show them to everyone. No, but I think what Pavel says resonates with me. I think it takes effort to be in a relationship with someone, and I honestly, one of the things I've probably been prone to do over the years is to get too involved or be too involved too quickly. But every time I've tried to do it the other way around, it's not worked out and it's felt wrong. So I'm sure there's a balance to be hit that I haven't hit. Well, obviously I haven't hit it yet, but I think what Pavel said, I don't understand how you can. I think you can maybe, if people are throwing themselves at you, have physical connections with multiple people, but if you want to have friendships and then all of that, I think there's a limited emotional capacity that at least I think I have a limited emotional capacity. At some point, I'm gonna overload. So I'm with Pavel on that.
No, but
all the power to the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans.
No, but then do you think that when you have an emotional connection with, this whole idea of this, again, what I was mentioning, that romanticizing this idea of this like one person that you meet, love at first sight, and I'll never love a person ever in my life again the way I love that person.
Oh, but that's a jump from what we were saying, right? Like,
No, but it's the same idea of like, being polyamorous is an extension of this idea that it's not that you don't just fall in love with one person. Like it's just an extension of the idea where you allow yourself to, let's say, be in love with multiple partners at the same time.
I wonder if it also has something to do with what you grow up around. Like, my parents are the quintessential old married couple, I'd say. Like, they bicker and it drives me wild. Like, listening to them bicker is so irritating, but at the same time, I don't think anyone who's ever met them would say that those two don't love each other. And they got married just before I was born, so they're heading on 32 years that they've been married. Like, you come home and I'll still find I love you notes from my dad who goes off traveling,
that's
or
nice.
like when he gets up early in the morning, and if he's going on a flight, there'll be an I love you note on the counter or something like
That's
that.
so nice.
And to keep something like that alive after 31 years, 32 years, that takes work. I'm sure there's been times in both of their lives where other people have been interesting. It'd be insane for that not to be the case.
Yeah. But I guess the
There's a
opportunity
choice at
cost.
some point.
I think.
A choice and work.
I feel like
Coming from someone who's never been in a relationship longer than like a year.
No, I feel like okay. First of all, I feel that that generational form of love is just completely lost.
no,
No, it is. Dude,
No.
now we live in a world of like grocery list of like it's like how you go to a supermarket and you have 20 different kinds of cereals you want to
no, but people were cheating on each other left, right, and center in previous generations.
I'm
Like,
not talking about
I-
adultery. No, I'm not just saying adultery. It's this idea that if you fall in love with someone, you build a life around that.
I mean, it's true. Yeah, it's true. With
Now it's
with
like,
more
now
choice,
you
with
can-
more choice comes, like,
it's-
I was saying it's like choice and work, and the more choice you have, the less work you're probably willing to do because there's the opportunity cost that we're talking about. But at the same time, I think because there's so much choice out there, I think people, in a way, our generation, I don't know, the kind of the proof of the pudding is in the eating. But I think people are more serious about monogamy now than they used to be because now we realize the sacrifice that it entails. And once you choose, like most people, like what they say, like half the marriages still end in divorce, and probably some of the ones that don't get divorced aren't that happy and probably should. Yeah. But then there's also ones that get divorced and they could have worked it out and they didn't put the effort in. And I don't think there's like a right or wrong answer, but I don't think that like we're less monogamous now than we used to be, because I think it's just nice having that one person that you can just, something funny happens to you on the way to work,
You want to just like
and you just want to have that person. I think monogamy in a way, like definitely not just Christianity, like religions have, it reinforced this like nuclear family thing, and there's been a lot of like social pressure.
religions specifically. I don't think other pagan.
I don't know, but like Japanese society is not Christian, and I feel like they're very like I don't know enough to judge, but I feel like they're quite monogamous in a way. Like
Marriages are they have to be done before God, and like God has to give the blessing. And so I don't know if God wants you to be monogamous in Hinduism, but it kind of became like a cultural thing, and then we just all became culturally monogamous. And so anyway, back to you. We walked through many centuries of history.
Poorly, very poorly.
But we were there.
Jan's effort to just deflect and not answer the questions, like he fucking took us back to the Roman Empire.
Welcome
Just
to
so that
Barcelona.
he doesn't talk about.
Welcome to Barcelona section cases.
Just so that he does not have to address, but I'm going to keep going back to the question. So for you, relationships, are you like a one girl for life kind of a guy, or you're like, nah, you when you fall in love, but then it's not like you're never going to fall in love the way you did with that person ever again?
I mean, my high school sweetheart will probably disagree with one girl for life because she's not in my life anymore. So there's a certain reciprocity. Reciprocity. Sorry, I'm a foreigner.
thank you, huge.
He was here to fact check. He's an American vocab.
Dictionary corner.
No, I don't think there's like maybe the concept of that one person, every pot has a lid. I think that's just unlikely by the amount of people that live in this world. The chances of that being true is very, very small.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're, as I said earlier, like I've tried the whole keep it distant sort of thing, and that's gone poorly for everyone involved. So for me, it's if you're with someone, that's where you should be, and you should try, see if it works. If it doesn't work, then that sucks. But you give it a go. And
But let's say you go on a date tomorrow and it goes great. Like, how far ahead do you allow yourself to think? Like, are you thinking, oh, like, this could be a fun, weekend? Could be a great year? Or are you already, like, at the point in your life where you're thinking, okay, can I build a life with this person? Like, do I see myself having kids with this person? Not like after the first date, because that's a bit crazy, but like...
do you mean have you Ted Mosby'd her?
Yeah, no, I'm not asking that, but like, like how quickly do you might not express it because you don't want to freak the other person out, but like in your head, is that like the criterion you're applying, or is like how many layers of the onion do you peel before you?
No, I think my life up until now has been very scattered. I moved a lot. I left for uni. Then I went traveling, then I did a trainee program where I lived in 4 different countries. So I've lived in 11 cities so far in my life. So the concept of sort of settling down hasn't been something that I've really entertained. And I am, like, it's probably a signal that I am getting old, along with the fact that my body is slowly breaking down, that I am considering it. But that's never been something that I consciously thought about. Because I think there is... To do what you're saying, like go that far in the future, you have to know a little bit more about where you're like going by yourself, if that makes sense. But like relatively early on, my decision making will be, look, I find this person interesting, and I want to see where this goes. The few times in my life where more than one girl found me attractive enough to date at the same time have gone bang. So, you know, you at some point you become a burnt child, you know, you need to...
Yeah, but you can't be a consequentialist in that sense that, okay, it's not consequential. What's the philosophical term
I
where...
don't know, should we ask Dave?
There's a philosophical term where you act based on what the consequence of the results are. Like, I don't know. Okay.
You studied stuff like that, didn't you?
There's something where you
I don't know. I know what
anyway.
you're talking about though.
where you basically it's somewhere within the realm of
Like the ends just
effective altruism,
like the ends justify the means sort of thing.
no, it's like
You only judge.
you're all about the result, and then if the result didn't work out, then like you
It's
starting
Oh, so wait, so
Retro-
you're saying that just because it's gone bang in the past, I shouldn't
like
expect it to go bang in the future?
Well,
Yeah.
let's say like hindsight is 20/20, something related to that. right?
yeah,
Like,
something like that. Like it's I don't know. Like
I get what you're saying, but I'd come back to what Pavel said. I think as of a certain point, look, date one's probably too early. Like I don't think there's a magic number, but there is a number at some point where the emotional investment and just generally the investment, I don't think I have the capacity to do that across multiple people. I don't understand how people can honestly keep, you know, you hear about those people that live two completely separate lives, like have two families.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't understand how you just logistically make that happen.
Did you read that article about Andrew Huberman?
Yeah.
I've heard about this.
You know,
Yeah.
That's wild to me. Like the amount of effort. I mean, the guy has actually sold his whole optimization strategy to me because if you can convince 5 women at the same time that you're dating them and monogamously, you must have some pretty good supplements.
But think of it that way, right? Like if you draw a parallel with friendship, there are some who would be like, man, how do you manage 6 friends in your life? Some people who live with 3 friends. And it's the same, because I have a friend who is polyamorous, and she says it's just, sometimes you just have different people fill different roles in your life, even from a love perspective. So, someone with 3 friends like me would be like, how the fuck do you have 30
Are
friends?
all 3 friends of yours in this room right now?
Yes.
Retreat, Aaron, retreat.
Who are you ruling out?
No,
But I think that's also an element of reciprocity again. And
Nailed it this time.
you got it.
But friendships, I'd say I've got, a lot of people that I'd call friends, and I'd hope they'd call me friends as well. But the expectation from both sides is that it's not just you have one friend. So the expectations from all sides are that you share this around. And if you're in a polyamorous relationship and all 5, 4, 3, whatever many people agree that that's the state of the world, then I think it can work. I think the difference is.
But for you,
when you live 2 separate family lives.
That's not polyamory. That's just advanced cheating.
And the logistics behind that blows my mind.
Cheat code. Cheater. And then you just...
No, I have the same question of why is it that we can have friends that we love and we can love several people at the same time, and a parent that has 1 child versus having 3 children, they wouldn't say they love the second and third child less because it's not diluted, right? It's additive. But for romantic relationships, with some exceptions, there is a sort of exclusivity.
There is.
And I don't know. It's interesting because I have a friend who thinks that basically friends with benefits doesn't work over long term because if you've had enough orgasms with the same person, you will develop feelings for them. And that it's kind of funny. I don't know if she means it super seriously. It's sort of a bit reductive, but there's actually some logic to that because every time you feel close to someone, whether it's in a sexual or romantic way, that's kind of adds up, and over time you just want that person. You might want other people as well, but you're gonna want one person more. I think it's again,
No, it-
polyamorous people exist,
Yeah.
but
no,
they're like a very small minority, right? That's why we find them interesting because
No.
most people don't do that.
it's true, and like like there are a lot of exceptions that apply to love that don't apply to friendship. So like one example, and I'll be interested to know your thought on this. This is the other question, is that when you have a fight with a friend or things go wrong with a friend or you don't talk to a friend for a while, your mood is not that badly affected. But man, if it's like a partner involved or someone that you like, it dictates everything that happens in your life on that day.
The stakes are a lot higher.
And I just don't understand why. Even if you're not in a relationship.
I think it's
with that-
biological
No,
because
it's not. I know. I'm not even before you get into a relationship. Like,
Yeah, but
I've
it's
had moments
biological.
Where that one person, her message on that day, whether she messages or does not message, dictates everything that happens in my day, my mood, and I never understand it. And I don't expect you to have an answer because I don't think anybody has an answer to this. But it'd be interesting to know your like, if you had to give an answer to this, what would you think the answer would be?
I'm just trying to remember how many like big arguments I've had
No, forget the
with
arguments.
friends. No, but like to draw the parallel, I don't think I've had.
No, but you're never gonna go. You're never gonna go like, oh man, Hugh didn't message me today. Oh, it's been like 10 days. Hugh didn't message.
If
And
I
you have,
got
like-
annoyed every time Hugh didn't message me, we wouldn't live together.
So but that's the thing, and it does not bother. And then you have, and okay, if you break up, life just feels like shit. But I've read about this. It's all like biologically, like abandonment just like hurts us a lot more. But then, what angers me is that you have your family, you have friends, and you have everyone in your life. And I'm not talking, when I say you, I don't mean you, just anyone in general. All of that whole social aspect of your life, and it's completely, erased. And then it's just that one person dictates so much. I never understood that.
Have you ever lost like a truly great friend in like breakups are quite abrupt normally. Like there's a point where obviously you can sort of grow apart, but at some point you call it quits. I think very rarely is that how friendships end, and if they do end that way, then something's gone like wrong to the extent that I think they would have. Like I don't think I've had a friendship that ended with us like breaking off the friendship. You grow apart.
No, but if there's a breakup, yeah, of course it hurts, of course it sucks, but everybody else that you love in your life are not able to fill that void collectively. How big is that void? And proportionately, like that that element of love filled by that one person just supersedes everyone else in your life. Because what you feel that in that moment is an abandonment of love, which cannot be filled by 100 people in your life. That to me is a bit fascinating, and it applies to everyone. That, and I don't expect either of you guys to have an answer to that, because I don't think if you guys have an answer to that, that'd be.
I mean, it's just a separate bucket, right? Like you have romantic love, you have familial love, and whatever, like friendship.
No, but you're releasing the same chemicals in your mind. Like your mind doesn't know like that. It's still like the same 4 neuromodulators.
Yeah, but the difference is that like your father or mother doesn't stop being your father or mother. Like you might fall out, but there's still like a chance. Well, I mean, obviously, unless someone dies, which is a very different situation. But like, you might have a fallout, but you still have that knowledge that you can be back in each other's lives.
Also, in that case, we might be coming from to be honest, I don't know your family positions, but if you come from a stable, non-broken home, you might have a different perspective on that than if you come, like I have friends who come from broken homes who I think would have a very different opinion on this, where one parent left or one parent isn't in the picture anymore, and they might have a very different picture on this in that regard. But I do think like there's obviously a difference, like and I think there's also a biological difference as well. I don't know how, but like.
But do you think it's rational? Like, would you, if you put yourself in that
I'd
shoe?
love for it to be rational. If it were rational, I'd be fucking amazing at this.
That's the tagline for this episode.
I think that's a good way to end the segment. So I went for one of his shows, and he said, and this is how he ended the show. He's like, the only thing in the universe. So he was talking about entropy and how everything will come to it's the death of the universe, and he said the only thing that will live forever is love, and then he ended the show and everybody clapped, and I was like, okay, I mean, you just spoke about like black holes and shit, like I'm sure you could have found a better way to end it than talking about love, but yeah, it's one of those things about humans where it's irrational, and I feel it's kind of good that it's irrational. I don't think it's a bug, but I feel it's a feature. It's a very
Unless you're in the midst of it.
Unless you're in the midst. No, but I mean, even when you're in the midst of it, there's an element of fun to it. Like I know it's never fun being in that situation, but if it was always just very predictable and very rational, it just wouldn't be the same. I feel.
No, it also.
So that's why I feel like just being in love is the irrational part of it is a feature and not a bug, at least in our lives.
And I also think it teaches you empathy. And again, I'm very aware the privileged life I've lived up until this point. So there's it's easy to say stuff like that because I maybe haven't seen the full scope of what can happen to people. But in the scope of that I've experienced, I think it also teaches you empathy and how to.
Has it taught you? Yeah, empathy.
Well, I don't know. That's something other people. I think other people have to attribute empathy to someone. If you attribute empathy to yourself,
the irrational love
then
in your
you,
life
then you
taught
don't
you.
understand empathy.
Has
It's because you're like thinking more about their feelings more than you would an average friend, or like how do you mean?
No, I don't think just not just in the dating realm, also in the friendship realm. Like the more highs and lows you experience, the more you can understand when other people are in highs and lows.
That makes sense.
Like if you haven't seen that high or that low,
I see.
You see it as sort of an academic exercise from the outside, and I think it's hard to maybe understand. But when you've been there, or you think you've been there, you can put it more into perspective in terms of understanding what they're saying.
I guess one last question in this segment. Would you say heartbreak is the worst form of pain?
Don't know, tearing your ACL sucks.
That's why I asked you this.
That's a hard no. Thank you, everyone.
Honestly, sitting on a beach trying to play beach tennis when everyone else tells you to sit the fuck down.
That hurts more.
No, I think they're very different. I think like physical pain. I think it's hard to compare. I think you can. It doesn't burrow its way into your mind quite as much. I don't think it control. And again, like there are different levels of chronic pain, and like some people who live with constant agony, I know that it has a very different effect on the way they are as humans. But like you don't even when this happened, even after the surgery, there was maybe a day and a half where I'd be lying there and I'm like, fuck, my knee really hurts. Fuck, my knee really hurts. Whereas I think when stuff like heartbreak happens, sometimes weeks, months later, you're lying there and your brain's going in circles and you're ruminating about something. No one ruminates about the time that they broke their arm. Like that's not a thing. At least no one's a broad statement for 8 billion people, but that's so.
Maybe like a high school quarterback.
Maybe if it ended like that person that ended their professional football career or something like that.
It depends on what could have been.
Yeah.
You know, like,
but then you're not
you're not going to the pros at this.
No, but it's true. Like physical pain is really hard to like re-experience afterwards. Like, I mean, obviously, very different kind of pain because you choose to experience it. But like, think about people who do all the kind of like crazy endurance sports. Like, if you do a proper like marathon or triathlon or whatever, like you're gonna be in so much pain at the end, and then people will willingly go, okay, great, let's sign up for another one. Nobody's ever done that for heartbreak. Like, not rationally. Like,
I mean, all of us do it again. It's the, sort of the price of paying.
I went to Psychic and she told me I'll be really sad in 12 years' time. To cheer myself up, I bought myself a puppy.
No, but I feel with physical pain, the recovery process, there is a systematic way to recover from physical pain. Like you have a whole therapy session around like how to get back to what you used to be. But I feel with heartbreak, it's like yeah, you can go to therapy, but it's just like it's literally just shooting in the dark, right? You're like hoping to get back to
Yeah.
the person you were before the heartbreak happened.
I also think that's an element of the what you were saying with the what could have been. Like if, like say I'm 21 and I'm 21 is actually far too old. I am 16 and I'm playing for Bayern Munich and this happens, and it never recovers. Then maybe at some point at 20 you're sat there, you're looking at your scar and you're like, ooh, mate, you're watching a Bayern game. That could have been me. But then you're not ruminating about the physical pain, are you? You're ruminating about all the possibilities that you've made up in your mind.
Now, pro athletes.
More painful.
Yeah.
And I feel like every romantic relationship is the second because it could have been
Yeah.
something for
Yeah.
long lasting forever, and wasn't.
Yeah.
And it might not even have been. Like you consciously know that there was loads of opportunities or loads of different pathways that it could have gone, and a lot of them would have ended up in a different place as well. But there's a few pathways where it would have ended up, and those are the pathways that your mind.
No, so I read about this, like a part of the heartbreak that hurts, at least some psychologists, their theory is that it's a bit to do with the ego, where you kind of, an abandonment feels like you've been rejected by the mate, and then that doesn't go down well with you, and that has nothing to do with you being in love with that person. It's just that act of just being abandoned by someone itself just kind of pisses you off, and that alone doesn't go down. And we live in a world where we'll see that same person with someone else, and then jealousy and all these other elements kick in which have nothing to do with love. Then it's just all about ego, all about jealousy, it's all about competition, everything that is so evolutionary built, and there's this whole evolutionary pressure around like always competing for the prime mate. So then all of these kind of get convoluted when we talk about heartbreak. So I feel like yes, there's an element of love, but I also feel there are all these other elements which probably may not have to do so much about love. And yeah, that's why probably heartbreak is a lot more complicated. Ooh. Oh.
You want to take us through your show and tell?
Oh yeah, let's pull the handbrakes and.
Well, the cliche goes, it's better to have loved than lost than to never have loved at all. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I've not tried the. Actually, no, I definitely agree. I spent a period of my life back at university coming up with reasons not to get in relationships, coming up with reasons not to get in.
Oh, like, I can't date this girl, she's like a sister to me.
Not quite that, but.
But I'm not sure if she likes me, though.
Exactly. Love me.
Like she just invited me up to her room, but I'm not entirely sure if she's really into me. No, it was more along the lines of, oh, we're in the same class. Oh, I'm going to Germany in a month for 5 months. What's the point in giving this a go now? And then you get out of situations where this happens, and almost certainly it's worse to not have given it a go, because the what ifs hurt a lot more than the other opportunities. So I definitely agree with that.
Can I ask one question on that?
Of course.
You mentioned about getting back to the person you were before the relationship and heartbreak.
Yeah.
Do you think that, like, do you like being yourself more after the relationship, or would you rather it hadn't happened, or maybe it happened but you could go back to being the person you were before?
I'd love to hear all your answers after this. I feel put on the spot. I don't think so. I think it comes back to empathy. There are certain things that happen where afterwards you can connect with other people on a different level. And again, this is bearing in mind the level of trauma. Like there are certain levels of trauma that I'm sure people would much rather erase, and I'm fortunate enough to have not lived through any of these, even though a lot of the scientific reading will actually say that a lot of people who go through truly horrible things, when interviewed later on in life, will say that they don't wish to have not gone through it. Like there's quite a lot of science, social science behind that, that says that they're like, look, this is part of the person I've become, and this is where I am. So I don't think so, but I don't know if you agree. And it might be because my scale of trauma is so far been. I'm really asking the universe.
Okay. Wow, this was a heavy loaded segment. Probably the heaviest segment that we've had on our podcast.
Yeah, and thanks for that.
Thanks for that, yeah.
Way to go kill the podcast. Everyone's like, nah, that's a fucking downer.
We're joking. So now we get to the fun segment. This is your segment. You brought it. Your contribution that we're very proud of. You should introduce.
He always says that. So
It's part of it. It's
it is an innovative concept. It's called show and tell, where we ask a guest to show us an object or multiple objects and tell us about it. Shout out to Calvin and Hobbes, which is where I got this idea from. If you know Calvin and Hobbes, you'll know what I'm talking about. If no, don't worry about it.
I love Calvin and Hobbes.
Okay, great.
Should I get it? Let me get it.
So Calvin tends to bring Hobbes to a show and tell, and most people are like, most kids are like, why is he bringing his stuffed tiger again? But we know the tiger is real. We know.
We all know the tiger is real.
Yeah.
Honestly, my show and tell just looks like me airing my dirty laundry at this point.
I thought that was the previous segment.
That's a good one.
I'd love to say we planned that, but it happened that quick.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know where to go from this.
No, sure. Yeah,
No, this is just, honestly, it's a pile of sportswear, and
Yeah.
they're all from various football teams that I played, or sports
You can
teams
show
that
it
I've
to the
played
camera.
in over the life. This is shout out to
Woo!
Barcelona section,
Woo!
right there. This beautiful piece of fashion that some of you have seen dancing in New York section to the YYCA, courtesy of Aleix, is from my German team back when I was a kid. This is from my German team before I came to IESE.
Nice.
And this last one's from Edinburgh University. And
Nice.
like, friendship has always been a huge part of my life. I mean, the guys in the flat will know that I spend most Sundays on 1 or 2 phone calls with friends trying to
Every Sunday.
almost, yeah, more or less, trying to keep up with my friends from my past life, because I do think that this segment of life can become quite all-consuming.
I need to know that because I'm struggling with that.
Yeah, so it's genuinely like, pencil it in, because we'll WhatsApp once or twice. It'll take 3 weeks to have how are you conversation, at which point I'm like, look, let's have a call on Sunday, and then we spend an hour and a half chatting about life. But a lot of this has come through football and sport for me. I think there's a very easy way for people to meet like-minded people, for people to have sort of shared experiences that go beyond the football pitch. There's the, like, before training, after training, you're sat in the changing room, you have a beer. That honestly, whenever I put on one of these shirts, there is an element of, oh yeah, this is what happened with them, and you go back to that, and it's not like you spend back to ruminating. It's more a brief reminisce, and then you're like, oh, that was nice. And a lot of my life has been built on sports teams, and which is why, honestly, and I'm boring myself, but when this happened, one of my very real fears, the minute it happened, was, oh, is that me done? Like, is that sports at that level out of my life? Because it's been such a big part of how I interact with the world around me. So
But
there's a
is
lot more, but these are the only ones that weren't in the wash. So
But is it like when you say sports, is it just the sports? Because you mentioned the people that you got to be a part, like who were part of your journey in this, like every sport that you played. So is it more about the people or is it about the sport?
I don't think I can separate the two. I'm a very, like, I have ants in my pants. I've always had ants in my pants. I struggle to sit around for too long, and when I don't exercise, I become quite irritable. But I wouldn't have the memories for a sports shirt if it was just me going on. I don't think I'd have the same memories if it was just me going on a run or me going to the gym. So I don't think I can separate the two.
Oh, when you first showed me that's going to be a show and tell, I'm like, oh man, it's going to be so boring. He's just gonna show
And he was right.
No,
Just
but-
because I've been dicking on running, and you've just got back from a marathon.
3:34, motherfucker.
Just shut on running. Yeah, if it was running, it wouldn't be the same. What the fuck? Just saying. Okay.
Camera cuts away. Pavel's just fucking there.
All right. Okay, that's. I mean, like I said, was not expecting that answer. So thank you.
If you had to pick one of those shirts.
Which one would you pick? Yeah, which one would you pick?
Did you expect him to like run you through his history of winning titles?
And,
I thought that's what.
and this one was on.
This is when I won the under 11s Munich South.
How fucking big were they?
MVP of the game that one.
This was my Edinburgh University training shirt. That one time when I scored 4 goals as a goalkeeper.
I thought that's what he was going to do. I was like, oh man.
There's gotta be a hit list.
I was like,
This shirt I wore once when we
greatest
lost 2-1 to Munich.
I was like, how do I tell him that joke? Show and tell is not like be a fucking show off and tell. It's show and tell, and it has to be something meaningful, which it did.
I
So
love clothes of different colors.
And I can't even see the different colours.
I love fabric. I think fabric is cool. Trees. Alright, okay. So we come to the last segment. No wait, we do take a question from the audience. So I asked them on Instagram. I posted. I'm like, okay, we're meeting this person next, and you get to ask questions. So we have one question from Edu. He wants he wants you to he wanted to know that could you please share your amazing hair care routine with him, because he would love to know.
That's very fair. So
Game recognized game.
it does, and I don't think Idle's ready to put in the time that it takes for me to have this. So, as the boys know, I get up at 5:30 every morning. I'll exercise for 45 minutes because sweat activates the hair follicles.
So Edu has to get up at 5:30.
Yeah. Then he has to exercise for 45 minutes. Then I'll get in the shower once and I'll condition and then wash it out. And then I'll have breakfast. Normally something that's high in iron because it strengthens the hair follicles.
This is very Patrick Bateman.
And after breakfast, I'll blow dry the hair just to make sure it's completely bone dry.
Nice.
And then I'll get back in the shower.
It's like all the women listening to this right now.
then I'll shampoo my hair. And all in all, that takes about an hour and 15 minutes every day for me to have that just out of bed hair look that I have every day.
So Edu, this is
Great question, great answer.
fantastic. Okay, so the last segment. It's a question we ask every guest, because most of the podcast is very idiosyncratic and very unique to the guest, which is why we tailor the questions for the guest. But the last question is the same for everyone, but we get different perspectives to that one question. And the question is, it's a very easy one. What is the meaning of life?
42.
Okay.
No.
Ah, come on.
Edu said that.
Edu said it. Edu's taking
Bastard.
it.
I was meant to be before Edu.
No.
I'd like it known that I was going to be before Edu.
Blame marathon runners.
Bloody runners.
Fun fact, you know, panda has 42 chromosomes.
Really? So pandas are actually the meaning of life. Is that what you're saying?
No, so there's this guy, he's actually sat down and he spoke about the different things that have some relation to 42. And it was amazing. And one of them was panda, and it was like yin and yang of life, and pandas in China are known as the yin and yang, and there was something about the star, and
Pandas, the ones that won't have sex and are extremely picky eaters, and then like everyone's artificially keeping them alive. If that's the meaning of life, then I think we'll have a problem.
no, it's the yin and yang, the black and white of the pandas, because in China they're like kind of thought of as the yin and yang. Anyway, okay, you can't take 42. Edu has already given that
I
answer.
can't take pandas because that's
Nope,
your answer.
no.
Okay.
So you got to tell us what is
What's the meaning of life, pandas?
I think it works on many levels.
Alright.
No, I think the meaning of my life, if
Yeah,
I can
that's fine.
summarize it in a super high-minded way and not sound like a prick, but again, that's what everyone else gets to decide. I try to live my life in such a way that interactions with me in the long run leave people better off. I'd like to think that people I've interacted with feel like they're better off for having interacted with me. And if anyone doesn't, feel free to add that. Max, please leave. Don't add any input to this. No, so I think that's sort of my aim in life. And I think if more people tried to live life that way, you could avoid certain difficulties in life that we might be facing. But I'm also very aware that that comes from a very privileged background. Like you have to have a certain place in life to maybe be able to live life that way, or maybe you don't. Maybe.
No, but like leaving a good impression is that what you're saying? Like you.
I think not just like not a good impression in terms of like a facade. Like I'd hope that people feel like they're better off because we interacted.
Hmm.
And that's open to everyone else's feedback, but that's how I try and go about my day, go about my life.
Awesome. That's a nice
Do you guys
answer.
ever answer these questions back,
No.
or do we have to do a podcast
No,
where
we don't answer. We're just the host. You answer this question. It's not like okay.
do I get to ask questions?
No. This is the end of the podcast. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching.
And we get all the money donations and all the pussy.
And all the pussy. What pussy? What pussy are we getting?